Happy Friday, YouTube. Please like this video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Hit that little notification bell so every time we go live, you are notified. Up next, we are recapping Thursday's action and getting you ready for next week on Kokomo Friday.
Alcantara, Soroka, you look so good in Boca. Peralta, Manoa, bounce back for Aaron Kilito, Castillo, Yoshida, Mosu,
Carlo and Fado, value so high, but ADP so low. Frank Clubs, tip some kind of Joe. Now let's get on with the show.
Happy Kokomo Friday and welcome into Fantasy Baseball today on April 22nd. Frank Stampfl joined by Scott White and Chris Towers. Today on the show, we've got some awesome pitching performances to talk about. I was there live for one of those. The Oakland A's are playing some good ball. Let's talk about those guys. And week 4 sleepers and 2 start pitchers. Before we even get to, oh my goodness gracious, Chris, that mustache is on fire.
Yeah, I don't know exactly what's happening with it. I just know I haven't trimmed it in, I don't know, a couple months now. So this is kind of the longest it's ever been. I can curl it. I can curl it even more, get like a little Raleigh fingers thing going if I want to. But I think my wife, my friend the other day said that he would buy me some mustache wax, and my wife said don't encourage him. So I think that would not be appropriate for me to do.
That's a bad Chris.
Yeah, I guess so.
Gentle way of putting it from your wife. Letting you down gently.
I mean, it's not practical, you know. It gets in your mouth while you're eating. I had wings on Thursday night for dinner, and it was like just like my mustache was just caked in sauce. It's a hard time.
That's an experience I can't relate to.
Would love to see Scott with a mustache.
I've never.
It keeps coming up. Coming up on the podcast very organically too. I might add that we want to see Scott with a mustache.
I just think you need to do it.
Keep dreaming. Keep dreaming.
All right, I will dream of that tonight. Anyway, let's get into it.
Oh my goodness gracious!
I also want to apologize. Another, I guess, sidebar before we get started. Some people say that they heard something different when I played the Hawk Harrelson clip recently. He says, you've got to be bleeping me. So just wanted to clear that up for whatever you thought you heard. Look, Hawk Harrelson would not have been on the air ever again if he said anything else. So it's you've got to be bleeping me. We won't play it anymore anyway.
I mean, the thing about bleeping is it could be anything you want it to be.
That is fair. So
fill in the bleep any way you want. And
don't let your imagination take you too far.
Next time we play it, we'll do a bleep on top of the bleeping.
No, I've been told not to play it anymore. So that is what I am going to do or not do, I guess.
Smart
anyway,
plan.
Oh my goodness gracious, Scott, we're 3.5 minutes in. Let's talk about a baseball player. Who you got?
I will talk about Carlos Carrasco, the Cookie Monster. He was a monster against the Giants of all teams. On Thursday, 7 2/3 innings, 4 hits, 2 earned runs, no walks, 7 strikeouts. It was a total gem and his second in a row. And he looks great. 9 whiffs on 91 pitches. That's not a great rate overall, but 8 combined on the slider and changeup. The secondary stuff is back for him. And that's the key because his fastball isn't very good. And we just didn't see the same bite on those secondary pitches last year. We came to learn in spring training it's because he had loose bodies in his elbow, wasn't able to straighten his arm completely. Probably shouldn't have been pitching, frankly, but he was. Yeah. And now he's had those bodies removed and we see the result. And like there's a lot of things that I don't know. I'm not trying to pat myself on the back here. I am genuinely surprised that so many people are surprised, right? Because
He was really good in 2020.
They act like 2020 never happened. Oh, he got leukemia and now his hamstring and his elbow, and they act like we haven't seen a good Carlos Carrasco since 2018, and that's just not true.
Yeah, it was a shortened season, but he looked like himself in 2020. Last season, he never really he was hurt in spring training with that quad injury, and he never really had a chance to get going. So. Yeah, no, that's why I've been so aggressive in moving him up, just because he looks like himself. And I don't know, there's risk there, but there aren't a lot of pitchers who don't have risk. And in that range, I feel better about him than a lot of those guys. So, yeah, I've been more than happy to move him up into the SP3 range.
Scott, can we peer pressure you into moving Carlos Carrasco even higher in your rankings? Because Chris just mentioned he has him at SP32. I moved him up to SP35, and you've got him up. You've got him at SP50.
Oh, geez. I don't know. I just updated my rankings 2 days ago.
I don't know why people are so skeptical of Carlos Carrasco.
Man. Maybe they've leapfrogged me. I don't know. Let's see who I can. Okay, so, man. A lot of pitchers I like are ahead of him.
It's a fun group. It's Tyler McGill, Matt Brash just ahead of him. Nathan Eovaldi is solid.
There comes a point in the rankings at any position where it's just like,
yeah,
I'm very open to suggestion. If you're not in the top 20, let's say top 25 at starting pitcher, 30 maybe. Yeah, I could move Carlos Carrasco up, sure. I can't move him up as high as Chris. I can't move him ahead of Logan Gilbert and Adam Wainwright. I still want to have ahead of him. Chris Bassett. I don't know. There's a lot in here that maybe could be moved down. It's tough. You don't want to go overboard rearranging your pitcher rankings after every 3 starts, because then there's just no end to it, right? But yeah, I like in a general sense, I think Carlos Carrasco is good.
All in all three of us like Carlos Carrasco. That is the point. And again, he went 7 2/3 innings in this start on Thursday. I was there to watch the game. It's pretty cold too, and he pitched very well in this start. It was his longest start since May 4th of 2019. So shout out to Carlos Carrasco. Looks healthy, looks sharp, looks like he is back. Chris, you are up. Oh my goodness gracious.
Yeah, how about Pablo Lopez? He looked great today against what has been a very good Cardinals lineup so far. 7 innings, 9 strikeouts, 15 swinging strikes, 11 of them with that changeup. The changeup he used as basically his primary pitch today through 37% of the time. He was outstanding. And I don't know, the concern with Pablo Lopez for me, and the reason why I don't have very much Pablo Lopez on my team, was never that I was concerned he wasn't very good. His changeup has been, a really, really good pitch for him for a while. He throws in the mid 90s with a decent results on his fastball. There's been a lot to like about him. The concern was just the shoulder, and that's not a concern that can go away because the guy looks good after 3 starts. Obviously, that's not really how it works. But yeah, he looks pretty awesome so far here in the early going. I got a ton of strikeouts today, and yeah, I'm feeling pretty optimistic about Pablo Lopez, at least as long as he's healthy.
Yeah, he's allowed 1 earned run on the season. Pablo Lopez has 17 strikeouts to 3 walks. I took a look under the hood. Nothing looks tremendously different for Pablo Lopez. I think the changeup has just gotten better. So far in the season, entering his 3rd start, he had a 23% swinging strike rate on that pitch. I noticed the whiff rate on StatCast is way up for the changeup as well. So I think he's just kind of perfected that pitch, or close to perfected. And so far the results on it have been really good.
The results were great last year too. He had better ratios pretty much across the board than Sandy Alcantara, who we all considered an ace coming in. Lopez did last year. It's just he made only 20 starts or whatever. So
Lopez has been really good going back to the start of 2020.
Oh yeah.
And maybe the changeup's getting better. I mean, obviously he had a ton of whiffs with it in this start, and I don't know if that was included in the StatCast data. Probably not.
Not yet.
Yeah. maybe it's getting better. But the point is, I don't really think it needs to for him to be an ace. He just needs to, as Chris said, stay healthy.
Yeah, that's the bigger concern with him. It's really the only concern.
I think the point, Scott, that I'm trying to make is that if the changeup is better, then maybe there's another step that we haven't seen from Pablo Lopez yet, where he's getting more whiffs and more strikeouts overall. Since the start of 2020, Pablo Lopez, 3.12 ERA, 1.13 whip. The guy's really good. He just needs to stay on the field. Chris, my follow-up question, and I guess this goes for Carlos Rodon as well, and Clayton Kershaw. Do you try and capitalize on these guys while they're healthy and maybe sell high while you still can? You don't have
you can definitely make a case for that. That, if someone's willing to treat Pablo Lopez like he doesn't have injury concerns right now, then yeah, you should probably trade him because he still has injury concerns. Carlos Rodon still has injury concerns. Clayton Kershaw still has injury concerns. All these guys still like being healthy, as we saw with Jacob deGrom in spring training. Being healthy currently doesn't mean you can avoid injuries forever. And when someone like Pablo Lopez has his history of shoulder injuries, or Clayton Kershaw with his elbow, Carlos Rodon with every joint in his arm pretty much, like watching them pitch right now is amazing because of how good they look. And if Carlos Rodon or Clayton Kershaw or even Pablo Lopez stays healthy, like any one of those guys could be, I don't know if Pablo Lopez has top 12 upside, but Clayton Kershaw and Carlos Rodon certainly do.
Yeah, I got to say, I'd be really hesitant to sell high on Rodon because I don't know. I'm not sure how high is high enough. He might be the best pitcher in baseball.
Yeah, he just looks over. I mean, he threw his fastball 77% of the time yesterday and got 17 swinging strikes with it.
Only needs one pitch now.
Incredible. So, but the thing is that injury risk hasn't gone away. And if watching him pitch like this has made someone be willing to overlook the injury risk even more, then it's probably not a bad idea to at least consider selling him. But you have to get, I think, blown away to move these guys.
Yeah. Again, we have to stress the sell high aspect. Don't just sell because these guys are injury prone. If someone's not blowing you away with an offer, then just reap the rewards as long as these guys are healthy.
Every pitcher has injury risk. Every pitcher is injury prone. Maybe not Max Scherzer. I don't know, but even Justin Verlander was the model of consistency and health until he wasn't. Like every pitcher is going to get hurt at some point. That's just the way it works. And so this is kind of, when you're selling a guy because of injury, selling him low or not getting full value for him, you might just be better off riding it out with Pablo Lopez if you can't get, top 30 starting pitcher value back for him.
Yeah. Classic buy low, sell high right now. Someone tweeted at me and told me they got offered a crazy trade for Kyle Tucker. Like, this seems obvious, but hey, go out and offer Carlos Rodon for Kyle Tucker right now and just see what happens. I don't know if that person's going to take it. Probably not, but
yeah, I gotta say, I played fantasy baseball a long time. I made a lot of trades. I'm not sure I've ever made pulled off a sell high trade like we're talking about. I've sold high on a player who I just didn't think was very good, so it didn't take much for it to be a sell high. I've bought low before, man, but selling high enough, I don't know. I mean, I play with some pretty sharp people, so maybe
selling high on a good player is hard.
Yeah, it is.
All right. While we were talking about Pablo Lopez, I did want to mention the Marlins hitters real quick. Chris, you and I spoke about. Did I really just say spoked? Spoke about Jesus Sanchez on yesterday's podcast. He went 2 for 3 with his third home run. Scott, I wanted to get your thoughts because we spoke about him recently, you and I, and you were still kind of skeptical on Jesus Sanchez. Have you come around a little bit because he's spraying the ball to all fields? Kind of looks like a different hitter so far. What do you think about Jesus Sanchez?
Yeah, I'm more open to the idea of him being good. I think it's a little too late, at least in CBS sports leagues. He's too rostered now.
Yeah.
But I made a play for him when the last week's run of waivers, when he was still available in a couple leagues. The strikeout rate is at a point now where, he doesn't have to be some massive power hitter if he can sustain that 22% strikeout rate. But, it does appear that he does have enough power that he could, there's the issue of him not being able to, he's not going to walk at all. So he needs to have a good batting average, or he needs to have like Adam Duvall power. I think he can have a good batting average. It's still a difficult profile, but he might be able to make it work.
Yeah,
Especially, go
the
ahead,
problem
Chris.
for him is he doesn't hit the ball in the air very often still. So he hits these massive shots. I mean, 428 feet today. But that's what, his third of the season. And I would guess he has a pretty high home run to fly ball ratio now, because he's only got a 22% fly ball rate. So it is a narrow line to walk, because he has to, like Scott said, he'll probably hit for a pretty good batting average if he keeps his current batted ball profile, but he probably won't have a ton of power unless he has a really high home run to fly ball ratio. But he probably needs to keep the strikeout rate below 24% to, really maximize both of those. And he needs a lot to go right, but right now he looks really good.
That home run he hit today, Thursday, was like a missile. Like, it got out so fast. And so I don't know what the launch angle was on that, but it probably wasn't helping his average launch angle as much as a normal home run might.
I'm not sure.
The first thing I went to look at, Chris, while you were talking about Jesus Sanchez and his home run to fly ball ratio being as high as it is, his average exit velocity on fly balls and line drives. I've said this countless times about Juan Soto. The reason that he can overcome his high ground ball rate and hit for power is because whenever he puts the ball in the air, he blasts it. He hits it really, really hard. And lo and behold, Jesus Sanchez, 96 mile per hour average exit velocity on fly balls and line drives. That ranks 22nd among qualified batters early on in the season. Of course, Juan Soto ranks 4th.
And
he's always very high on this list.
That's
Wander
probably
Franco,
gone up today, because his home run was 114 miles an hour, his hardest hit ball of his career. Launch angle only 21 degrees, which is fairly shallow for a home run. So I mean, it's the same as like Christian Yelich pre-breakout, pre-MVP Christian Yelich. He had just run incredibly high home run to fly ball ratios year after year. That's probably what Sanchez needs to do, and you're not going to get a lot of speed from him either. So, he needs to hit really, really well. But so far, like, this is what it would look like.
The early returns are very encouraging for Jesus Sanchez, just absolutely crushing the ball when he puts it in the air. I wanted to mention, I don't know if you guys saw this sequence too. Jazz Chisholm, one of the cooler things I've seen this season. He goes down 0-2 on 2 pitches that he didn't like. Umpire Phil Cuzzy is barking at Jazz Chisholm to get back in the batter's box. Jazz is like taking his time. He's like, no, I don't like pitches. Yeah, he's like, no. You wait your turn. Now I'm going to get back in the batter's box, but I'm ready. Steps back in, launches a bomb. It was awesome. And then he does his Euro step over home plate like he always does. And he just kind of like shows up the umpire. He's like, see, what are you doing? It was great. It was honestly one of the cooler things I've seen. It was also Jazz's first time leading off this season. So they moved Jorge Soler down to 3 in the order, and Jazz up at leadoff. So if he hits, he's going to lead off. I think it's as easy as that. Oh my goodness gracious, for me was going to be Kevin Gausman, but I mentioned there were awesome pitching performances. I'm just going to tie these last two together. Kevin Gausman and Joe Ryan. Gausman at the Red Sox, 8 innings pitched, 1 run, 8 strikeouts to 0 walks, 19 swinging strikes. He leads baseball in swinging strike rate. He looks every bit the ace that he's been the past 2 years, basically since the start of 2020. And then Joe Ryan, another strong outing, 6 shutout innings, 5 strikeouts to 1 walk. Scott, anything that you'd like to add that you saw on Thursday with Kevin Gausman and or Joe Ryan?
I'll mention the sliders for both, because neither of them is known for their slider, and yet the slider the 19 whiffs Gausman got in this start, 7 came on the slider, more than even on the splitter. And if that's going to be, big if that's going to be even more of a weapon for him, if it's going to be more of a weapon for him this year, the slider, then, obviously that raises the ceiling even more. You mentioned he leads the majors in swinging strike rate this year. I would say Gausman has been pitching even better than his numbers so far. So very encouraged by him. And Joe Ryan, the story coming up through the minors is he's dominating just with a weird arm angle on his fastball and not much else. But in his previous start, he threw the slider even more than his fastball. Didn't in this start, but still. 12 29% of the time. Got several of his swinging strikes on it. And if he has a legit second pitch to pair with that fastball, then yeah, I'm feeling really good anywhere I invested in Joe Ryan right now.
I
have
did move Kevin
zeros.
Gausman up to SP8, and that is as much a reflection of how well he's pitching as just the lack of faith I have in the Julio Urias, Robbie Ray, Shane Bieber, Zach Wheeler class, which, it's to Aaron Nola, Lucas Giolito being on the IL as well. I have varying levels of confidence in all of those guys, but I feel more confident in Kevin Gausman right now.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I mean, they were basically in the same
Yeah.
tier. I had Bieber maybe a tier higher, but all those guys whose velocity's been way down in the early going, it makes sense to move them behind somebody like Gausman, who we know has ace potential. Yeah, I'm not burying any of them. I don't think you are either. But yeah, I mean, we're just kind of sorting out the ace class. Yeah, I would agree. I have more confidence in Gausman right now.
Yeah, I haven't really moved. It's not like I've moved any of those guys down necessarily, but I moved Sandy Alcantara and Kevin Gausman ahead of them all. And I wonder how much it's going to take for me to do that with Carlos Rodon, who I feel confident is going to be better than probably all of those pitchers when he's on the mound right now.
I moved Rodon into the top 10.
Yeah. Yesterday, you kind of stumped me, Chris, and I guess I'll ask you, Scott. He asked me Shane Bieber or Carlos Rodon right now, and I said I would still go with Bieber, but it's getting a lot.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, I'm looking at my rankings, and I have Bieber 8th and Rodon 9th. But I was wondering that as I was just mentioning, I have Rodon in the top 10. Oh, should I have him behind Bieber still?
Yeah. Yeah, I have them at the same price in the trade values column now. So, I think they're definitely in the same tier. Very different types, but injury risk with both.
Yeah, for sure. Let's take a look at those Oakland A's. The fans are currently boycotting the team. The attendance has been dreadful, and I 100% agree with it. But credit to the players. They're playing hard, and they're 8-6 through their first 14 games. So shout out to the Oakland A's. I wanted to run through a few of these hitters here and Paul Blackburn. Sean Murphy, 3 for 4 with his third home run of the season. He is crushing the ball early on, still striking out quite a bit. Lots of fly balls, so he's kind of selling out for power. 68% rostered. Chris, Sean Murphy still might be out there in one catcher leagues. Would you drop someone like Keibert Ruiz, or is it too early to make a move like that?
I think it's probably too early, but it's not unreasonable. I mean, in a 2-catcher league, like, is someone going to go pick up a cold Keibert Ruiz right now? I don't necessarily think so. That's not
catcher league.
Yeah, in a 1-catcher league. That's probably not a name that someone's going to see and say, oh, I have to, break the bank for them. So, it's not unreasonable. Sean Murphy, remember, had a very good debut in 2019, a very good 2020. And then his 2021, which was the bigger sample size, was not good. But, he's still young enough that perhaps we wrote off the potential for some upside here.
Scott, you get a few deeper names here. Tony Kemp went 2 for 4 with 2 runs scored. He has multi-hit games in 3 of his last 5. He also has two steals on the season again. This is Tony Kemp. He's leading off consistently, 17% rostered. The other name is Sheldon Neuse. Again, spelled Neuse if you're looking for him. 3 for 4 with a double, 2 RBI. He has 8 hits over his last 4 games, 7% rostered. Scott, any interest in Tony Kemp or Sheldon Neuse in deeper leagues?
In deeper leagues, sure. And I'm not going to totally rule out them having mixed league, like standard mixed league relevance at some point. Neuse has a pretty good minor league track record, and it looks like he has a pretty firm grasp on the third base job right now. Kevin Smith had to go on the IL and wasn't hitting well even before then. Kemp is fast and he's disciplined. And he's getting a chance to play every day for the first time, and he's batting leadoff, I think, most days. And like in points leagues, you like that he doesn't strike out much, and I could see him being relevant just for that reason. And of course, in categories leagues, if he ends up running more than he has historically, I think he's up. How many stolen bases does he have so far? Two. Not 2 in 2+ weeks. I mean, if he can sustain that pace, it's going to be a useful number of stolen bases. So keep an eye on him. Keep an eye on both, but I think especially
TGFBI.
What's that?
Yeah.
I've been starting him in TGFBI since the start of the season, actually. Tony Kemp was one of the late round guys I picked up, and they're out there. So far, so good. You're basically hoping for runs, batting average, and stolen bases.
Yeah. Yes, with Tony Kemp. And it's worth mentioning that is a 15-team mixed roto league.
Yes,
so
15.
it is a deeper league. So something like that. Scott, I know you have him in the Dynasty League. That's a 24-team head-to-head points league. So
yeah, I'm loving him there. I think he's been my best hitter so far.
hey, he's been pretty good. Let's take a look at who started this game for Oakland, and that's Paul Blackburn. 5 innings of 1-run ball, 4 strikeouts to 0 walks. He only had 2 swinging strikes on 62 pitches, and apparently took a line drive off of his shin, which is why he didn't go deeper into the start. Did not come out for the 6th inning. He is 35% rostered. Chris, I was just looking. Blackburn's actually the 4th most added starting pitcher on CBS just because his roster rate was so low. Now some people are starting to add him. Do you think this number should be higher than 35%?
I don't think so, just because I don't think there's a ton of strikeout potential. So you're kind of hoping that he can just be a limits hard contact specialist and puts up decent ratios. But he's another guy I think I added in. I'm pretty sure I added him in TGFBI, and I think I added him in another league this week. So yeah, I think he's interesting enough, but probably still pretty fringy for 12 teams.
I was pretty discouraged. I mean, not that I had especially high hopes, but we were commenting earlier on, he's getting some whiffs. His velocity's up. Velocity was back down today. 2 whiffs on 62 pitches against the Orioles. So maybe he turns those trends around in his next start, but the track record for Paul Blackburn suggests otherwise.
Okay. So Scott, what do you think about that roster rate? Do you think it should be higher? No? Okay.
No.
Before we get to some news and notes, I want to remind everyone, Fantasy Baseball Today is here to help you dominate your league all season long, but now you can represent your favorite podcast with official Fantasy Baseball Today gear only found on the CBS Sports Store. Discover t-shirts, mugs, sweatpants, laser engraved pint glasses, hats, one that I'm wearing right now if you're watching us on YouTube, water bottles, and more to remind your buddies how you got the inside scoop to crush the competition. Right now, Fantasy Baseball Today listeners will get 20% off orders when they use this podcast exclusive code, Fantasy Baseball 20 during checkout. That's Fantasy Baseball 20, and it's only available for our listeners. Head over to store.cbssports.com/collections/fantasy baseball today. That is a very clunky link. If you want it, you can find it in the podcast and the YouTube description. You can click on that and you can shop now. And if you want to hear the latest on top prospects, we'll start to work it in more as the season goes along and we have more minor league baseball data. But Scott's prospect report is live on the site, and we are going to break that down on this Saturday's episode of Fantasy Baseball Today in 5. So make sure to download and follow that podcast wherever you are listening to this podcast. Let's take a break, and when we return, news and notes here on Fantasy Baseball Today. Let's jump into news and notes. Luis Robert has been diagnosed with a minor groin strain after Thursday's game. Tony La Russa called the injury minor, but acknowledged Robert could require a stint on the IL. Sad face. A tear rolls down my cheek.
He's missed. He's had an injury pretty much every year, even going back to the minors, which, that happens. But last year was somewhat serious. We'll see with this one, but something to keep an eye on.
Yeah, he's been honestly not. I was gonna say awesome, and then I realized the batting average is really low. He's running a bunch. His expected numbers are great, Luis Robert. So hopefully he's all right. Bad news.
Crushing the ball too.
Bad news for you, Chris. I'm sorry. George Springer was not in the lineup Thursday after getting hit by a pitch on his forearm on Wednesday night. Good news for Chris. Byron Buxton was back in the lineup as the designated hitter. He finished 1 for 4 with a single. And more good news, Luis Arias will begin a rehab assignment with the AA affiliate for the Brewers on Saturday. He is 78% rostered. Might be out there in some shallower leagues. Again, that is Luis Arias. Josh Bell's MRI on his knee came back clean after leaving Wednesday's game early. He was back in the lineup on Thursday. JD Martinez was not in the lineup Thursday with a groin injury and is unlikely to play on Friday. Roansy Contreras was optioned to AAA after 2 strong relief outings. And in an article from Alex Stampfl, manager Derek Shelton confirmed Contreras is being sent down to be stretched out as a starter. Not really sure why they didn't just do that from the start of the season anyway. I mean, maybe they needed a bullpen arm, but they should have been doing that, and then they could have called him up now to be a starter. I don't really understand.
Well, I believe he needs roughly 17 days in the minors to get that extra day of that year of extra eligibility. So,
got it.
Yeah, could possibly be that.
Yep.
You could certainly stretch him out in the majors. Teams have done that before.
Yes, you certainly can do that. Scott, would you look to hold on to Roansy Contreras if you picked him up?
Yeah, if you're in the sort of league where you could have picked him up, it's probably pretty deep. I'm not saying he's must stash or anything, but I do like the upside, and it sounds like there's a timetable for him getting a shot.
All right, Bobby Witt Jr. was dropped to 7th in the Royals lineup on Thursday. He had hit 2nd or 3rd in every other game this season. He finished 1 for 2 with a double and a walk, but was also picked off first base. John Gray was placed back on the IL, this time with a low-grade MCL sprain in his left knee. AJ Pollock will join the White Sox on Friday in Minnesota. Hopefully that means we won't see Leury Garcia batting 3rd anymore in the White Sox lineup. What happened on Thursday? I mean,
I think that's 2 days in a row that Leury Garcia has batted 3rd, and like that's got to be one of the worst number 3 hitters ever. Like, not because I saw somebody tweeting about this, and I think they made a good point. Like, not counting like prospects who were bad but were hitting 3rd, but like established guys, like guys who have a track record. That's a pretty bad number 3 hitter.
Leury Garcia is batting .077 on the season.
Yeah,
we kind of know who he is at this point in his career.
Got to get him going. I think that's the thought there.
Don't get that one. Trevor Bauer's administrative leave has been extended through April 29th. He is still 79% rostered. Scott, would you continue to hold Trevor Bauer? I guess if you waited this long, I don't.
I mean, like I don't. Maybe my AL and NL only leagues, but I can't think of another league where I am not pressed for roster space. Like every single league, there are more players I want to add than I can add. So I am very surprised that so many, 79%, have managed to hold on to Trevor Bauer. I don't think I would have. I mean, obviously the rewards could be huge, but I mean, presuming he is cleared at some point, which I don't know how likely that is, but presuming it is, like, how much longer do you have to hold on to him before he's actually ready to pitch? I mean, I know he probably will need to be rostered if that does come to pass, however long it takes him to pitch. But I don't know. My point is just that, like, it's such a huge uncertainty, and you're going to miss out on potential breakouts. Maybe you already have at this point. I don't know.
Yeah, that was my next point, Scott, is if you held on to him, you might have missed out on someone like Nestor Cortez or Andrew Heaney, who I've realized is on IL now, or Kyle Wright, someone like that. So,
and there's going to be more that we haven't really spotted yet. I didn't get a chance to talk about Mitch Keller yet, but it was kind of encouraging what he did yesterday, really emphasizing that fastball that he's worked so hard to improve this offseason, and he's available in 71% of CBS sports leagues still. I think I'd drop Bauer for him just to see where it goes.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure anybody's going to be dying to pick up Bauer. Like, we got to make this point a lot, but if you drop him, I'm not sure now is the moment where somebody's going to say, yes, I need to pick him up and stash him.
Mitch Keller, by the way, in that most recent start, 0 walks, Scott. That's what I love to see.
Yeah. Well, and like he threw 77% of his pitches for strikes or something like that.
Yep. Massive step forward for Mitch Keller. Steven Duggar was placed on the IL with a left oblique injury. Alex Kirilloff is feeling optimistic that he can return in about a week following a cortisone shot in his wrist. Just doesn't seem like this is going to end well, unfortunately, for Kirilloff. I hope it does. I hope he proves me wrong, but this has not been a great situation.
Just don't know how you can be optimistic about it at this point. Like if the surgery didn't fix it, then that's really frustrating.
For sure. Garrett Whitlock is likely starting Saturday against the Tampa Bay Rays unless he's used in relief on Thursday or Friday. I don't think that he pitched on Thursday. I will confirm that. But if he doesn't pitch in relief on Friday, Garrett Whitlock will start on Saturday. And Chris, the next Red Sox save will go to blank.
I don't know. Hansel Robles, I guess.
Yes, that's the right answer. Come on. We picked up Hansel Robles everywhere last week. By we, I mean, I think Scott and me. Scott, did you pick him up?
I picked him up in at least one league. Yes.
Yeah, it just, I don't know. Like we did get the report yesterday that they want Matt Barnes to be the closer, but I think he probably needs to show he can get the job done first in a lower leverage situation at this point.
Yeah. I went on a bit of a rant on Twitter yesterday when Josh Staumont came in to pitch the 8th inning and Jake McGee came in.
You told everyone. You told everyone to drop all the closers, Scott. It's crazy.
I always love when Scott Blewett makes an appearance.
Yes, the pitcher Scott Blewett is as a way of reprimanding myself on Twitter. I post his screenshot from time to time. But yeah, I mean, I am so over speculating on closers because there's the Royals thing. I thought we had it. I thought we had it figured out with that second appearance for Staumont and Barlow and just the way they were used. It's clear Barlow wasn't used in the highest leverage situation in that second save chance for Staumont, and then everything changes the very next day. And I don't know. I know there was something came out about the way the Giants deployed their hitters last year, because obviously they have a ton of platoons, and it wasn't always a strict lefty righty thing. And apparently it had to do with the kind of pitcher they were facing and in terms of the way the angle the ball comes out, and what certain hitters are better at that. And they have all this crazy data that.
Yeah. What manager mentioned that? I saw a manager mention that with regards to the closers.
Well, that's what I was wondering, if maybe, I mean, I don't think of the Royals as like this progressive with data organization like I do the Giants, but maybe that's going into the thinking for how Matheny divvies up the saves between Staumont and Barlow, in which case we're never going to be able to figure it out because that's internal data. So yeah, it sucks.
I wouldn't want to doubt Mike Matheny myself, but I feel pretty certain saying, in between games, he's probably not on a computer somewhere or reading.
Well, it doesn't have to be him.
Yeah, and that's true. Yeah. Most teams should, or they do have an analytics department at this point, and that's their job. I wrote down the date here, Scott. This is April 22nd, 2022. I think this might be a turning point for you, where maybe next year during draft season, when Scott White is drafting all of the ace closers, this will be the reason why. This will be the turning point.
I don't think so. No, because I don't know. These are quarter-baked to half-baked ideas right now. But I mean, the thing, yes, the approach to closers is going to have to change at some point, but I still don't think that's the right one. Because if there are more closer committees, then there are more sources of saves out there, just not as many saves.
Mm-hmm.
And you still don't have to pay to have a decent showing in the saves category. So yeah, I don't think I'm there, but yeah, it's been frustrating. Continues to be more frustrating year after year.
You've heard of the Hero RB strategy in fantasy football? Hero RP. I think that's where we're trending. You try and get one of those top 7 or 8 closers. You lock down your, whatever it is, 25, 30 saves. And then you just kind of, I don't know, play around with the rest of your roster and try and figure out how you can get 30 or 40 more saves on your team.
not to set us further off track here, but I wonder how long that's even going to apply. What happens when the Kenley Janssens and Craig Kimbrells and Aroldis Chapmans, I mean, that triumvirate has just been unbelievable in terms of their consistency as closers. But like once they're gone,
Yeah.
like are we just going to be, is the dedicated closer inching toward extinction?
I think it's more about the managers in baseball, right? Like, I don't know if we.
Well, yeah,
if we start to see some of those old school types leave the game, I mean, eventually they will. Then
I don't think any manager would have the guts to tell Kenley Jansen he's not a closer anymore.
Yeah.
But pretty soon there won't be Kenley Jansen or others like him left.
There won't be those guys who have that cachet, who have that as part of their like contract, essentially. I mean, for all intents and purposes, like that's Kenley Jansen's contract. He's being paid to be the closer.
Yes. He's getting paid very handsomely too. I think it's $15 or $16 million. So
yeah.
You get paid that, you are going to be the closer. Let's get into week 4, the preview here. Scheduling for next week. 12 teams have 7 games. 17 teams have 6 games. And only one lonely team has 5 games next week. That is your Oakland A's.
Oh, no, you got to sit your Oakland A's.
Yeah, we just talked about Tony Kemp. Now you can't even pick him up and start him. Anyway, let's talk about the 2 start pitchers for next week that we're looking to add and throw in our lineup. Scott, who you got?
Okay, well, let's talk about a couple of questionables who may not be able to add, but do you want to start them? Luis Severino. It's been kind of hit or miss so far, but the matchups are the Orioles and the Royals. So I think it's very likely you'll want to get him in. Nathan Eovaldi has the bipolar matchups at Toronto, at Baltimore. I still think that's probably a yes, don't you?
Yes.
Framber Valdez struggled with control the last 2 starts at Texas, at Toronto. So kind of a split there with the matchups as well. I'm still thinking probably yes, but I can understand hedging on that if you have good 1-start alternatives. Let me see if there's anyone else interested who's too rostered to pick up. I don't know. Tristan McKenzie actually is more than 80% rostered on CBS at the Angels, at the Athletics. I think I lean yes for that second start on him too.
Yeah.
I don't know. I less so Marcus Stroman at Atlanta, at Milwaukee, Eduardo Rodriguez at Minnesota, at the Dodgers. Not the greatest matchups for either, and we haven't really seen a good start from either yet. And I think in points leagues it's fine because the threshold is the threshold to meet is lower in points leagues for a 2-start pitcher. But in Roto, I'd probably be protecting my ratios there with Stroman and Eduardo Rodriguez. Okay, now for some you can actually pick up. Merrill Kelly of the Diamondbacks. Right at the point where I can almost he's gotten almost too rostered for me to recommend him, but he's not there yet. And his velocity was down in his last start, down back to normal, but still that changeup just looks so much better than it has in the past. And his ERA is like 0.50 right now. So at Milwaukee versus San Diego, I think actually versus Milwaukee versus San Diego, those are, oh, I'm sorry. That's the wrong matchups. Okay. Merrill Kelly's matchups are actually the Dodgers and the Cardinals, which aren't as great, but I mean, we've seen him succeed against the Astros already. Yeah, I think I'd start him. Mitch Keller, who I just mentioned earlier, threw his fastball a lot more, got a lot more strikes, got a lot more whiffs versus Milwaukee versus San Diego. He's 29% rostered. So highly available and I think highly worth starting. Miles Michaelis off to a good start this year versus the Mets versus the Diamondbacks. I think at least in points leagues, that's probably an advisable start. And also in points leagues, a spark here, Jordan Hicks, who we just saw make his first start on Thursday. And even though he lasted only 3 1/3 innings, understandably, because it was his first start of the year, actually just 3
First
innings.
start ever.
First start ever. Good point.
He threw 46 pitches, though.
He looked great. I don't like, he's not the kind of pitcher who's going to get a ton of whiff. He's very Emmanuel Class A like GIF worthy stuff, a lot of velocity, but more about ground balls than whiffs, just weak contact. And I think hopefully in the second start and third start, because he's in line for 2, he'll be more worth using. Might want to take a shot on him as a relief pitcher in a points league.
All right. There was another name here, Scott. I don't know if you actually mentioned him or not, but German Marquez. I feel like he's kind of on that fringe too. He's at the Phillies and he's at home against the Cincinnati Reds. Chris, you have been the German Marquez whisperer. Would you start him in those matchups at Philadelphia versus the Reds at home?
I think I would. Definitely in a points league. At Philadelphia, scary, just because that's a lineup that could, go deep 3 times against him, and it wouldn't be too surprising. But yeah, I think I would.
All right, it's got some single start streamers for next week.
One more note about Jordan Hicks, just in case we don't get to him later. He threw 46 pitches in his first career start. Obviously, he's a converted closer who came up as a starter, was converted to closer. His last fastball of the night was 100.6 miles per hour. He averaged 100 miles per hour with his fastball, or 99.6, I guess, with his fastball. So that's pretty impressive. And the fact that he was able to maintain that velocity, I mean, obviously not super deep into the start, but 46 pitches is much more than you usually see from a closer. That's a good sign, I think.
Yeah. Move over Hunter Green. Jordan Hicks coming to throw 100 miles per hour as a starter. All right, Scotty, some single start streamers for next week.
Tony Gonsolin, now that their Dodgers are treating him like a conventional starter, his matchup this week is against the Diamondbacks. Gotta love that. Bailey Ober goes against the Tigers. That's also a good matchup. He's available in more than half of CBS sports leagues, and he's off to a nice start for the Twins. The Yankees duo of Jordan Montgomery, who also had a good start Thursday, and Jameson Taillon. They're going up against the Orioles, who are a distant last in runs scored this year. Not even close. And you understand why, given the names in their lineup. So can't ask for a better matchup than those two are going to get this week. And if you need one more, Eliezer Hernandez is rarely healthy, but when he's healthy, he's no stranger to good starts with useful strikeout totals. And he's going against a team this week that's been striking out a lot, the Seattle Mariners. So I like Eliezer Hernandez as a sleeper as well.
All right, before we get to Scott's sleeper hitters, I'll give you the best and worst matchups. The best are the Yankees next week, and then the Padres, the Astros, the Braves, and the Brewers. The worst hitter matchups in week 4, the A's, the Nationals, the Pirates, the Cubs, and the Royals. All right, Scott, some names that are rostered in less than 80% of CBS leagues. Sleeper hitters, that is.
So last week I was apologizing for the list. This week it's really good. Really good. I had to kick 5 guys out of my top 10 for the website that I wanted to have in there. The Padres you mentioned have the second best matchup, and they also have a lot of hitters and rostered in less than 80% of leagues, right in the perfect range for this. Jurickson Profar off to a nice start. I think he'll keep it going with those matchups at Cincinnati and at Pittsburgh. Luke Voit, I know he's been out of the lineup a little bit more recently as he's gotten off to a slow start, but with those matchups, I'd be willing to gamble this is the week he's going to turn it around. Get him back in your lineup if you've strayed from him. He's not in my top 10, but I will mention CJ Abrams here as well, because only one of the pitchers on tap is a lefty, so he should be in the lineup a lot. And as I mentioned, good matchups. The Brewers, they're among the teams with the 5 best matchups as well. And you got Hunter Renfroe. I think this is the week he turns things around. And Andrew McCutchen. Now, 3 of the 7 pitchers the Brewers are going to face this week are left-handers, and Renfroe and McCutchen especially, both had favorable splits against lefties last year. I think historically they have favorable splits against lefties, but just good matchups overall. I think you want them in your lineup. A couple guys who are a little more available here. Alec Boehm, who seems to be working his way back into the Phillies lineup on a regular basis after defensive lapses cost him playing time earlier, and he's crushing the ball. He's crushing the ball. Maybe not elevating it as much as we'd like still, but better than last year. And the strikeout rate is way, way down from last year, more in line with what we were expecting for Bohm all along. And I like the Phillies matchups this week. Also, Aaron Hicks. You mentioned the Yankees have the best matchups of any team. Frank, Aaron Hicks is off to a good start. Could provide a little speed, a little bit of power. Get on base a lot. I think he's a good choice for this week. And then a couple more guys here who are hard to recommend most weeks because they're platoon players, but I think just one lefty on the schedule for each of the Rays and the Giants, and that would be G-Man Choi and Jock Peterson. Done a lot of damage already, and this week they should be in the lineup more often than usual.
All right. Aaron Hicks, by the way, has led off 5 straight games for the Yankees. Alec Boehm has started 4 of the last 5 games for the Phillies. So you're right, Scott, getting back in the lineup there. And we spoke about him yesterday. He's someone that I'm encouraged by right now. Again, that is Alec Boehm. Let's get back over to the pitcher side of things. Chris, would you hold on to these 2 pitchers? Anthony DeSclafani, not off to the greatest start. 5 innings, 5 runs allowed on Thursday. He's got a 6.08 ERA, a 1.80 whip. Zach Greinke, I mean, he's been fine. He's just not giving you any strikeouts at all. He has 3 walks to 2 strikeouts through his first 3 starts. He's been okay, but he's just not giving you strikeouts. Would you?
It's so weird.
Would you hold on to DeSclafani and Zach Greinke?
I wouldn't be actively looking to drop either. If I was going to drop one of them, DeSclafani would probably be the one. It should probably be Greinke, right? I shouldn't just play the results game. Like 2 strikeouts and 3 starts or 4 starts now, right?
No, I think this was his 3rd start.
I don't know. Like I almost think Zach Greinke's doing it intentionally because the stuff doesn't seem that different. And no,
I agree. It's weird. Like I don't think he's going to be averaging. He's not going to have a 5% strikeout rate all season or whatever we're talking about here. But the lack of swinging strikes also doesn't bode super well. So. Yeah, I think you'd probably want to drop Greinke instead of DeSclafani. And I would do it for like Mitch Keller, who I think has some long-term upside, although I do have plenty of questions, even though he was good today. I don't think I would necessarily be looking to do it for like a two-start streamer. Although Merrill Kelly would be.
Yeah, I mean, he just needs to be rostered.
Yeah, he's not a 2-start streamer. He should be rostered more than he is based on what we've seen.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I would be fine dropping Greinke. I would prefer not to drop DeSclafani.
Yeah, I think with Greinke, you want to hold him in deeper leagues just because he's such a high floor play and he'll give you solid innings, which, it's fine. In a categories league, I get it. He won't give you strikeouts, but the ERA and whip should be okay for Greinke.
I still have a hunch Greinke's going to be good this year, but like I'm not. If I need to pick somebody up off waivers, I'm not going to let Greinke be the reason I don't,
Yeah. Quick thoughts on these 2 pitchers, Scott. Zach Plesac had a strong outing versus the White Sox on Thursday, 6 2/3, 2 runs allowed, only 3 strikeouts. He allowed 13 hard hit balls though. And Michael Pineda, solid debut against the Yankees, 5 shutout innings with only 2 strikeouts. Anything on Plesac or Pineda? Pineda is widely available to a 17% roster.
Yeah, I just. There'll be streamers at times this year, I think, but I don't think there's enough upside for them to be any kind of priority off the waiver wire.
See if someone in your league had like a Johnny Appleseeds moment and fell asleep in April of 2021 and see if you can be like, look, Zach Plesac, he's carrying it over just like 2020 and try to trade him to that guy.
Yeah.
Because I don't see very much to be optimistic about here.
Plesac is
he's getting hit really, really hard.
Did Johnny Appleseed fall asleep for?
Right, wasn't that the thing?
Who
fell asleep?
Thought he planted a lot of apple trees.
Who was the guy who slept for a long time?
Rip Van Winkle.
Is that the guy who slept for a long time? Well, Rip Van Winkle, whatever.
Okay. It was while sleeping in a tree that Johnny Appleseed had his dream one summer night, asleep in a big oak tree Johnny Appleseed dreamed that he could plant trees across America from Ohio to the Pacific Ocean.
But it was
And
only
his
one
dream
night.
came true. Yeah. Yeah, that might be Rip Van Winkle.
Okay.
Yeah, Rip Van Winkle did sleep for 20 years, having missed the American Revolution.
I mean, Chris is like an encyclopedia sometimes, so I hesitate to question him, but that sounded a little off to me.
Look,
No,
I'm
you're
sure
right.
Johnny Appleseed slept at some point. All right.
Yeah, sure. Some hitting standouts from Thursday. I mentioned Francisco Lindor. Maybe I didn't mention this. I think it was before we started podcasting. Anyway, he went 3 for 5, hit his 4th home run of the season. He's batting .308 early on. Ty France had 2 more hits, including his 3rd home run. He is raking early on. He's batting over 300. Robbie Gausman, 3 for 3 with a double and a walk. Now has a modest 4-game hitting streak. Slowly coming around is Robbie Gausman. Signs of life for some Blue Jays hitters. Bo Bichette went 2 for 4 with his first steal of the season, and Matt Chapman went 3 for 4 with a double. He now has 8 hits over his last 5 games. The batting average is up to .273, and the strikeout rate is a very manageable 26.5% for Matt Chapman. If he keeps it that way, I think good things are going to come for Matt Chapman.
Didn't
Xander
take
Bogaerts.
much for him to fix those numbers, did it?
Yeah. And I think that's a lesson here early on where people are asking us, what do we do with Ketel Marte? Look, 3 or 4 good games. It's so early in the season that the overall numbers can change like that on the drop of a dime, drop of a hat.
If Ketel Marte hits 2 home runs in his next game, his numbers aren't going to look that much different than what you'd expect. You know, like it's just it's that period of the year.
Yep.
Scott, is it drop of a hat or drop of a dime? I feel like you were laughing at
Drop
me.
of a hat.
Okay.
There are other
I think both.
expressions
Yeah.
involving dimes. Oh, it's both, Chris. Okay.
I think it can be both.
Did I start a whole thing where we're nitpicking everything everybody says now?
I'm
Yes.
very offended.
Xander Bogaerts is another example of what I just said. He went 3 for 4 with a double on Thursday. He now has 11 hits over his last 5 games. The batting average is up to .354. Some deep waiver wire corner infielders. Somebody we haven't mentioned yet, Josh Naylor. He has 3 multi-hit games in the 4 games he's played thus far. He's 9% rostered. And Dan Vogelbach went 1 for 4 with his 3rd home run of the season. He has 6 games next week, only 1 lefty on the schedule for the Pirates. Chris, any interest in Josh Naylor or Dan Vogelbach in those, deeper mixed leagues?
Yeah, Naylor is somewhat interesting in a deep league context, but not necessarily someone I'm running out to add anywhere outside of maybe a 15-team league. So, he's got good AAA numbers. His overall minor league numbers are pretty middling, but from some reports we've seen, the Guardians are optimistic enough about him that he played a role in why they haven't, made big efforts to upgrade their outfield. So, they'll give him a chance.
I'm never going to be out on Daniel Vogelbach. I still think there's a good season in there, and he's off to a good start. I came of age in the Moneyball era. I have an affinity for guys who, at least in theory, should walk a lot and hit a lot of home runs, even if they're not very athletic.
Oh, I was going to say, so you're a Yankees fan, basically.
Yeah.
No, Yankees fans hate those guys.
Oh, I mean, don't even get me started. I haven't had my true Yankee meltdown moment yet on the podcast this year. It's coming, though. It is coming because this team, let me tell you, Joey Gallo, that guy can take a walk because I am done with him. Call to the bullpen. Let's start with the Minnesota Twins.
I mean, taking a walk is kind of the only thing he's doing right now.
Yes, you are right. He needs to
take a long walk off a short pier. That's what you meant.
Yes, that. Call to the bullpen for the Minnesota Twins with a 1-run lead. We saw Yohan Duran pitch in the 7th inning. Joe Smith pitched in the 8th. And who was it? Who got the 9th inning? It was Emilio Pagan. He pitched the 9th, picked up his first save of the season. Tyler Duffy has struggled so far this year. Scott, Emilio Pagan is 24% rostered. Are you interested in the latest on the closer carousel?
No. I think this might be the messiest bullpen situation of all, which of course means Pagan's going to have a string of 9 straight saves here.
Alrighty. For the Oakland A's, Danny Jimenez, he's pitched very well for them. He pitched a clean ninth with 2 strikeouts. He picked up his second save of the season, but that is likely due to Lou Trevino being on the COVID IL. But remember the name Danny Jimenez in case Oakland falls out of it. They look to trade Lou Trevino.
I mean,
Jimenez
Lou
is the next-
Trevino, I hesitate to speculate, but Lou Trevino is not some like lockdown closer. I think it's possible Danny Jimenez could just become the closer. Is he good enough to? And that's a different question. But point is, Lou Trevino is not that good.
For the Pirates, David Bednar entered the 7th inning in a 1-run game, and the tying run was on third base. He struck out Seiya Suzuki and then pitched the 8th inning. Chris Stratton pitched in the 9th for his first save of the season. Stratton is just 7% rostered. Chris,
That makes me want to pick up David Bednar if he's available more than Chris Stratton.
okay. Bednar, I'm pretty sure he's widely rostered. Last time
He probably is. His ADP was in like the 250 range, so he's probably and he got their first save, but
he's up to 52% rostered. He might still be out there. in
He's
some
the
leagues.
better one to have. He's the better
Yeah.
pitcher, and
like this usage, that kind of like I'm not saying that's how you would use a closer necessarily, but like that's clearly the highest leverage situation.
yeah.
Runner on third, 7th inning, 2 outs, like
Well,
that.
I would
that's-
say in like those 15-team roto leagues, though, Stratton needs to be rostered because it's what I'm saying about how we're gonna have to treat relievers. Like you're probably gonna need 3 guys who are at least in a tandem. And I think Stratton, I mean, they said coming into the year, it's a tandem. And
Yeah.
now each of them has a save.
Okay, there is a lot going on in this Rangers and Mariners game, which is
Yeah,
currently
Steckenrider just blew not a save, but a tie game in the top of the 9th. He's given up 2 runs, so that's not a great sign for his chances.
Yeah, the Mariners tied the game in the 8th inning, and it was off of Matt Bush, but Joe Barlow came in after, and I guess he got out of it. But then Steckenrider started the top of the 9th, and he gave up 2 runs. So now the Rangers have the lead again. I assume that Joe Barlow will come out for the 9th inning. If we get more information before the podcast wraps up, then we will get it to you. For the Cleveland Guardians, Emmanuel Clase picked up his 2nd save in as many days. For the Tigers, Gregory Soto entered in the 8th inning of a 1-run game. Bases loaded, 1 out. Got to score, right? The Yankees, the Bronx Bombers. No. Anthony Rizzo and Giancarlo Stanton, they both ground out. Soto also pitched in the 9th, and he picked up his 3rd save of the season. Jordan Romano gave up a hit, a walk, and a run, but converted his 7th save. Velocity has been down a little bit for him, but he's been awesome getting all these saves so far. Mark Melancon gave up 2 hits, but picked up his 2nd save of the season. To stream or not?
Sorry, just to clarify on the Rangers situation. Technically, okay, no, Bush did blow the save. Sorry. Or not the save, but the hold. He gave up the run. I saw Barlow came in and walked the first batter he faced, but it wasn't to allow a run. So sorry.
Yes,
I got confused as well.
Suarez hit an RBI single, then Barlow came in, he walked Crawford, and then struck out Tom Murphy to get out of the jam. Streamers for the weekend. Let's start with Friday. Jameson Taillon versus the Cleveland Guardians. Drew Smyly versus the Pirates. Michael Wacha at the Rays. Bailey Ober versus the White Sox. Reed Detmers versus the Orioles. Bruce Zimmerman at the Angels. Brad Keller at the Mariners. And guess who's back, Scotty? 1-800 Glenn Otto. He is at the Oakland A's.
He stinks.
I would say Taillon and Detmers are probably the only 2 I would really consider starting here.
What about Bailey Ober?
I kind of like Ober too.
Yeah, was Eloy back in the lineup today for the White Sox?
He was, but
Okay.
the White Sox are ice cold. They are 29th in weighted on base average against
And
right-handed.
they're not
pitching.
going to have Luis Robert most likely tomorrow. So
Correct. Let's go. So Taillon, Ober, and who do we say? Reed Detmers. I agree with Reed Detmers against the Orioles.
Tim Anderson was the only player in the lineup for the White Sox today with an OPS over 693.
I did see that Jose Abreu's Netcast page looks very good right now. So if you need a buy
Yeah, I
low,
mean, I'm not. He had 3 hard hit balls today. I'm not worried about him. And Andrew Vaughn should be in the lineup every day. He's not,
Grandal?
but he should be.
Yasmani Grandal too. Throw him in that buy low conversation.
Yeah.
Saturday, we've got Austin Gomber at the Tigers, Dylan Bundy versus the White Sox, Adrian Hauser at the Phillies, and Eliezer Hernandez at the Brewer. No, that's not true. At the Braves.
I wish Eliezer had a better matchup. I don't hate him as a streamer in a vacuum, but not necessarily in this matchup.
I don't really like any of these. I guess Bundy, if I had to choose one.
I would prefer not to.
Yeah, I ultimately agree with that.
Like, his results have been good so far, but he's throwing 89 miles an hour. He's got a 20% strikeout rate. I think he's going to get bombed.
All right, let's skip Saturday. What about Sunday? Chad Kuhl at the Tigers, Rich Hill at the Rays, Bryce Elder versus the Marlins, Nick Lodolo versus the Cardinals, Justin Steele versus the Pirates, Cole Irvin versus the Rangers, and Madison Bumgarner versus the Mets.
Is Josiah Gray too rostered for this exercise?
I think that he is right there on the fringe. Let's check.
Because he's got the Giants. I don't necessarily
72.
love the matchup, but I like what we've seen from him so far. His slider and curveball. He kind of looks like a poor man's Shane Bieber right now.
Josiah Gray is 72% rostered. I usually like to keep it under 70%, but yeah, if he's available, it's not a bad one. Scott, anyone for Sunday?
I mean, if you're really this desperate, Bryce Elder against the Marlins might turn out okay.
Come on. Lodolo.
No, the Cardinals have been awesome against lefties.
Yeah, they've been really good against lefties.
You're right.
Yeah.
You're right. I overlooked Lodolo. I'd rather start Lodolo than Elder.
I would rather start Lodolo than Elder just because I would rather have Lodolo than Elder.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Chris, did you see, by the way, that Nolan Arenado had 3 more hits on Thursday?
No home runs, though.
That's a win.
I didn't hear from that one dude who's going to tweet at me every time Nolan Arenado hits a home run.
I love it. All right, let's wrap there. For Scott and Chris, I am Frank. Thank you all for listening and watching Fantasy Baseball today. We'll be back again on Monday. Bye-bye.